Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part two of Who Would Win number 4, technically 4.5. Abraham Musser running the Dresden Files antagonist Gauntlet. Let me get this shared with everyone real quick. Gotta make sure everyone's on board. New stream. Copy paste. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of places to share this around. Alright. Alright, I got a limited amount of time. I got like an hour or so this is going to be a bit of a fast one. It should be fine though, because we got only a few. So, a quick recap. We are covering Abraham Musser versus the Dresden Files antagonists. So I've not read all the books yet. I've only read up to, what was it? White Knight? Let me double check. Yes, White Knight. Excuse me. So previously, we had determined that Abraham Musser defeated the antagonists of Stormfront, Full Moon, Grave Peril, and that he would have issues with the Summer Night and Death Mask antagonists. So that would be the Summer Lady and her minions, and Nicodermus. Is that how you pronounce it? Nicodemus? I'm just calling him Nico. Yeah, Nico. Those are two opponents that he'd have trouble with that I wasn't sure would, because of lack of information, I wasn't sure if it would be like a straight up defeat on either party or if it would be a draw. So I just put it as a tentative draw at the moment. So a quick recap of who Abraham Musser is, for those who don't know. Abraham Musser is the head of the Musser family, a huge practitioner family in not Ontario, Canada, just in Canada in general. They span states and a bit in Europe, I believe. They're a big family. And his specialty is in claim and conquest. So what he'll do is that he'll steal magical items called implements, magical creatures called familiars, and magical locations called domains from other practitioners for himself. And like he has at least, I believe, seven familiars that he's stolen. I don't know if we get an accurate number of how many implements he has. I think, let me see. He's got the catcher's mitt, which allows him to catch bullets or any attacks sent his way. He has the I'm sorry. He has the golden glasses, which allow him to like see the value of things. It enhances his already supernatural sight. He has the ceiling pin, which he can launch in the air at like super high speeds, and it pins people to any surface area. Like at one point, it pins a fully grown woman to the ceiling of a stone, like by her spinal cord. I'm trying to think of another one. What was he? He has a book that allows him to record names and find their locations. I think in various it works based on just broad stats that they might have. I'm trying to think of another implement. He has a cigarette lighter that he can flip up and set people on fire immediately around him. He has beads that can absorb smoke, fire, and curses. But if it absorbs a curse, he loses a bead and it has to take like a year to regrow. He has an abyssal, what kind of blade? It's an abyssal sword. I can't remember the type, but it's a really cool, like, sort of like scimitar kind of blade. He has that, and basically, whenever he cuts someone, it spreads this abyssal poison through their body. It, like, causes their body to fall apart from the inside. Does he have anything else after that? I feel like no, I think that's it. I think that's it for his implements. He has a bunch of familiars. So, going off of... sorry, excuse me. Wow. It's winter. Got this persistent cough. So, for familiars, he has something called a Dana, which is a psychopomp that allows him to ward off evil spirits, like blast people with positive energy or negative energy, depending on what he desires. That's not what I meant. He has the Dana can also redirect, can also like teleport him to like spirit world or protect him from hostile environments. Protects him from what was it? What did he call it? Instant death. Yes. Instant death curses fail against him because they'll be redirected by Vidana. You can also create natural forces and turn them into holy fire or holy water. You know, all that stuff. He has a storm child familiar, which allows him to manipulate the elements or absorb it. So think in terms of random child shooting lightning, fire, wind, and absorbing that as well. He has a super soldier familiar that was created by alchemy and dream fighting. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically she's like a super soldier in every way possible with perfect memory, the ability to build a spaceship, supernatural intelligence, supernatural athletics, Captain America, except even maybe more super intelligent, maybe on a verge of in between that Captain America and Halo Spartan kind of level. What other familiars does he have? He has so many. He has a muse, which doesn't really do anything, but she's super good at singing and blending in. So I guess that's it. He just liked her because she was pretty and he wanted her. He's a fucking creep. Fucking asshole too. Who else? What else am I forgetting? I'm really racking my brain right now. Oh, he has this one called a rabbit killer, which manipulates shadows and can eat stone, eat other people. Basically, imagine if it was Alucard from Hellsing, just shadow manipulation, and if you fall into the shadow, it devours you. Basically, he has a boogeyman familiar that's 3 abyssal kids in a trench coat. And depending on which kid is the head, it depends on what abilities he gets. So he can become a super evil chef, a super evil surgeon, Uh, I think something else, but I can't remember exactly what it is. But all you need to know is that the surgeon's like superhumanly fast, like blinding speed hands, like will cut you open and apart. And the butcher one can like cleave through solid bone, and it's just like super durable. Like he cuts through a dog meat creature that's like impervious to bullets and blades, and he just cuts through the arm easy. Am I forgetting one? Oh, he has an icon familiar, which is basically a statue given life by a god, and she's good for like just general holy defenses and like healing. Not much to say about that. He mostly just uses it to cure himself stuff. And I think if I'm not mistaken, he also has, and he has this one heroic familiar, which heroic just means like it's like an like historical sort of familiar, and in this case, like it has a hundred echoes of past workers and thousands of construction materials, which he uses to like alter space around him. So he'll be inside of a church, and if he wants to redecorate into something like some grand temple area, and turn it like into a bigger space on the inside, he can just summon in this familiar, and have like hundreds of workers and building material form together into giant concrete and stone pillars, and like it took like 10 minutes for him to create it. I think that's all. I don't think I'm forgetting any of them yet. All right. We don't know much about his domains, but he does use one offensively, which is his abyssal domain, which allows him to teleport in and out of shadows and walk through the abyss to locations. It's not exactly like teleport. It looks like teleportation from the outside, but from his perspective, he's literally just walking from place to place, and he's going through what is basically could be considered hell. So he has his protections there, so it's not a big issue, but it's not exactly as clean as it looks on the outside. And he also has a bunch of minor things, like he can create runes that can absorb the shock of bullets and stuff. Like at one point, with his catcher's glove, I already mentioned that he can catch bullets, but at one point he had like 5 different people launching like submachine guns and rifles his way, and his hand was like a blur, catching every single bullet, and he felt a faint pain in his hand from it, but he had runes drawn that absorbed the brunt of the impact, so it was just more like a numb, like, oof, that hurts kind of thing, instead of like, oh my god, this is the worst pain. What else am I getting? No, he also can create runes that block bullets and stuff, but he doesn't really tend to use it because his catcher's glove is so good at that already. He has enhanced fighting skills. That dog meat I mentioned prior can like outrun cars, climb up walls, leave scrapes in the concrete and stone. And when he was like taken by surprise and had the dog meat come after him, with his catcher's glove able to help him catch the strikes, he was able to deflect and dodge and avoid most of the attacks without much hassle until his familiar saved him. And speaking of familiars, he has a broad sense of what they sense. So like for that superhuman familiar I mentioned, like the super soldier one, he could tap into her senses and get a broad view of what she's doing, who's around her, and whatnot. And he'd like be able to see through her eyes or understand what she's thinking, sort of. And he does that a lot with his familiar, so he can like have battlefield awareness of his minions. So that's the broad strokes of Abraham Musser. He's one of the strongest characters in the Otherverse setting, which is Pax and Pale and a bunch of small sub-stories. He's not the strongest, but he's up there. Like he's one of the big antagonists. So, I've mentioned this before in the prior stream, but I consider doing an Abraham Musser versus Harry Dresden. But up to White Knight, it's not really much of a fight, because Harry Dresden would just be, like, rocked. Like, Harry Dresden's big thing is big fire and big wind attacks, with all of which would do nothing to Musser, because he can just absorb the fire and wind and kick his ass. It's not much of a fair fight. So I thought it'd be funny to do antagonist instead. See how he squares up. And it's been pretty easy for him. He's got 3 wins from Stormfront to Grave Peril, and 2 arguable draws of Summer Night and Death Masks. So right now we're going to cover to White Knight, because that's where I am at the story so far. And let's see, where are we with that? So we got Deadbeat, Proven Guilty, and White Knight. All right. So Deadbeat is the... Oh my god, I coughed right into the mic with that one. My bad. My bad. I'm a bit... It's been a rough week, as we all know, for various reasons. But I'm just happy to be streaming again. So like I was saying, Deadbeat. All right, that one's the one with the Necromancers. Necromancers, this one might be tough. Because there's some key players here that prove to be a little bit higher tier. Oh, 1 second. Mm-hmm. Forgot to send it to some people. I gotta give them a heads. I need to be better at giving people a heads up. No, I try. But it's easy to forget. All right. All right. Ooh, I got another notification. Man, people giving me notifications. Sorry, someone's wrong on the internet. I had to correct them. Okay. Where was I? Yes, so Deadbeat. Deadbeat involves the Necromancer attacks. So the Necromancer... Oh. Almost dropped my stuff. That would have been bad. Okay, so Deadbeat involves the Necromancers. This is going to be a bit tricky because we only get to see 2 of the big Necromancers actually work. We do get a bit of Cowls, so we'll cover that in a second. So I can't remember their names because they're I remember Corpse Taker because that's a badass fucking name. I can't remember the other guys. I'll just call him the zombie guy. He's probably the most boring and least memorable one. So you know what? Who can blame me? So Corpse Taker's a big issue because her whole gimmick is that she attacks the minds of people. Her thing, like she has a little a ghoul minion, but the ghoul minion doesn't matter. So Corpse Taker's whole thing is that the ghoul minion would die, but the Corpse Taker's whole thing is that she attacks the mind, which is going to be pretty difficult for Musser, I think. I'm going to hedge my bets on that. Hang on a sec, because I got to think about it real quick. Mind attacks in Pale and Pact are a bit different from how they work in Dresden Files. They both operate on the sense of self/willpower, but there's a big difference in execution. The mind powers that we mostly see are like possession attacks and stuff like that, or enchantresses, like Elios. Elios can affect connections between people, or they can make them more likely to do something based on manipulating those connections and using just normal manipulation tactics. So it's like seeing strings between people and plucking them to get them to do things. And between that, there's also possession from magical creatures like the Turtle Queen, who was like a meme, basically, a mimetic effect that came to life and took over a small town. And, they're just body jacking others and stuff like that. It's not like mind control is exactly a thing per se. Like, there's not going to be someone who's running around like telekinetic mind and be like, ooh, I'm going to take over your brain. There's just powers that enforce their will upon you, which is kind of like how it works in Dresden Files, but it's different in the sense that you need specific connections and protections. You can't just brute force will it normally. There's exceptions. Like if you have enough power, karma, or defenses prepared ahead of time, it doesn't really matter how strong they are if you can just outperform them, right? Or you're probably prepared. Like, for example, I mentioned Elios. She protects herself from being mind controlled by the Turtle Queen by having a familiar who is a high spirit? A high spirit of, perversion, yes. High spirit perversion. Which isn't like sexual perversion per se. It's more like anything that's perverted, which could mean like the definition of like changing the substance into something that it wasn't meant to be. Like it's out of the norm. And in this case, like he becomes toxic to the Turtle Queen, which prevents her from taking control of him, Elios, and anyone like in their surrounding area. So that's one example. But I mean, I'm sure you're asking like, well, what does this have to do with Musser? Like, does Musser have protections? He might, in the form of Dana. Dana would redirect spirits that are aimed at him in attempts to possess him, because those would count as hostile spirits. So that's one potential defense. He does have a high form of claim, in that he has the mantle in his body. Like, he carries the mantle of, what's it called? I can't believe I forgot the name. The Musser clan. Which is like hundreds of years of Musser family heads, like the leaders, like all crammed into his body, and they influence his command and control, and they give him power and claim and a bunch of other tricks. But basically, he has that in him, which could possibly be a defense. Which would if Corpse Taker tried to take over his mind, they'd have to deal with the mantle in there probably. But other than that, he also he might be able to if he feels her encroaching on his mind, he could draw a line in the ground with his boot, and that creates a wall of power that interrupts any connection trying to be made between them. It wouldn't be like a perfect defense, but if it comes down to it, it'd be at least something that he can use in an emergency. Oh, we got a comment. I feel like Musser would be resistant to mind control because his mind is already pretty crowded. That's what I was kind of saying, but it's kind of weird to use as an argument because like the mantle, all the Musser family and stuff is technically one entity with a bunch of overlapping plots. So yeah, it would be probably difficult. And plus, he already has a lot of like karma from claiming and stuff and stealing stuff. He could just say mine and reject it. That's possible. But I'm not going to say it's like affirmative. I think the bigger defense would be Videna. Thank you, Ed, for your comment. Nice to see you, by the way. So that's a big deal with Corpse Taker, is that her big thing is that she needs to take over bodies. She does have like necromancy others and stuff that she can use. Like she summons ghosts. In the book, she summons like ghosts from the Civil War and stuff. Was it Civil War? Yeah, it was the Civil War. And that's not really a big issue either, because like I said, Dana. I feel like I'm kind of cheating, but Musser's always cheating with. But like Dana, like he just summons like the Dana, and purifying spirits will kill most of the ghosts, or at least eliminate them and banish them. So I got like 20 or so minutes, so I got this though. All right, so Dana, okay, Corpse Taker, probably defeated. He's kind of an obstacle, but not a big one. All right, so what about Zombie Guy? Zombie Guy is the guy that summons like actual corpses using the drum beats. He's not really a big deal in my opinion. Like his big claim to fame is summoning a lot of zombies ahead of time, but they're just really just like all he has is numbers on his side, and that they're corpses and that they need to be have their heads destroyed. Other than that, they aren't really like a big threat to Musser. Musser could easily wipe them out. Well, let me turn the air on. It's a little hot in here. Ah, that's better. Yeah, like I said, anyways, Zombie Guy is probably taken out easily. Not much to say. However, there is another. Cal and his friend that I can't remember, his partner, I can't recall her name. It's mostly focused on Cal anyways. They're different. They can summon man, they're strong. Like they can turn themselves, like they're really good at veiling themselves, which to veil themselves is to turn themselves sort of invisible, or a bit more like blocking out. It's kind of like a connection blocker. It blocks out people's awareness of their location, sound and stuff. They're really good at it. So Cal's good at that, but he also has a lot of power. Like when he fights Harry Dresden for like a brief moment, he sends like some kind of psychic wave of energy at Harry, and Harry's like braced for it. He has his shield up, he has his power ready to go, and he still gets knocked on his ass like 30 feet away. And immediately he's like, oh my god, if I had not been prepared, I would have died immediately. And Cal can like somewhat handle having a car dropped on him, and he's mostly just like, ow. It does hurt him a bit, but he's mostly like, he doesn't tank the car or anything. Like he still has to like take time to recover from it, but it's still a neat feat to have. But that's the thing, is that we don't see him directly fight again. We mostly see him like summon these awesome like indigenous people ghosts, kind of sort of like, I don't know if they're ghosts or if they're phantoms or something, but they're super cool. Like they were shooting like arrows and stuff, and at speeds of bullets, or throwing axes at the bullet speeds. Like they were tearing into a giant ghost T-Rex. Long story, but they were actually like tearing it apart, and like Harry was like shocked at how strong these spirits were. And like if the fight had gone on, they might have defeated this giant Tyrannosaurus Rex ghost, and they were like superhumanly strong too. So that's gonna be an issue. But again, Videna. It's all about Videna. Videna is just fucking so broken for necromancy, because it turns everything into holy. Like if he's surrounded by these ghosts, he can flip open his cigarette lighter, set them all on fire, which is already going to do damage, and then have Videna turn that fire into holy fire. If not, just have her like shoot out positive holy energy and have it like disintegrate the ghosts immediately around her. And like the only thing Cal has is that psychic energy attack, which we only see like a few times. But even then, it's like Musser can just dodge it or create his own barriers or have his others defend him. And Cal isn't that good, I don't think, from what we've seen so far. Because, like, he does show up later in books, but he's mostly in the background. But other than that, like, I think Musser wins this based on what we see from this book. Like, I'm sure this could change, like Nico or the Summer Lady, but I think this is, for now, a Musser win. Yeah, alright. I think that's good for Deadbeat. What is next? Proven guilty. Ooh, this is the first one that's not going to just be humanoid opponents. It's actually going to be monsters. So for this book, we have two antagonists, really. We have Madrigal Wraith, I think his name is. I can't remember his name. Something Magical, whatever. He's a excuse me. He's a white court vampire, which is a vampire that feeds on emotions. And in this case, Madrigal feeds on fear. And the thing is that he's a super big wimp. He's not very tough at all. Like, we see him fight later in a different book, and it's very pathetic. He doesn't last very long at all. But in this book, he's especially very weak. And Musser treats him like a chump and probably just kills him, if not enslaves him, because he's a fucking asshole like that. The other ones, though, are called fetches. These are the other antagonists. These are fey creatures of the Never Never, specifically in the Winter Queen's Court. So the thing with this is that they are very somewhat... I said very somewhat. They are somewhat similar to the Winter Court in Pale Unpacked, but in very different ways. So, like, in the Dresden Files series, Winter Fae and stuff like that, and creatures from the Never Never are much more humanoid. Like, they aren't very like they act a lot like people, basically. Like, they kind of lose a lot of mystique of being Fae creatures, unlike in Pact and Pale, where the Fae are like literally like not human at all. Like, they can have human qualities and rights and perspectives, but they are still like creatures who need to exist based on narrative tropes and strife or drama. To sum it up, they are literal drama bombs that need that to operate and exist. So it gives them an alien perspective of things. So the fetches in particular are creatures that feed off of fear, and they grow stronger on the fear. And there's like, I believe, was it 3 of them? 3 of them that are led by the Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow is like some Halloween sort of based fear creature who has the ability to resist magic. All the other ones are, it doesn't really matter. Musser could deal with them. They're all very weak in that sort of sense. Like Harry, like they're big deals to Harry Dresden, not so much to Musser. That kind of deal. The Scarecrow's another story because it's, for one thing, it's huge. It's been around for a long time, and it has that some kind of spell working that allows it to block a lot of magic attacks sent at it. It does not the same thing as blocking. Excuse me. Not the same thing as blocking physical attacks either. For example, it still gets its arm cut off by a sword swung by Thomas Wraith, which is another White Court vampire who is actually pretty badass in the fight. Thomas is superhuman strong, but he's not like Superman human strong, you know what I'm saying? So it's still impressive on both parties. I think a shotgun still annoys it, but it doesn't like harm it at all. So this deal of the Scarecrow is going to be a little bit of an issue because magic resistance is pretty tough to get past. Like a lot of Musser's attacks and stuff are basically magic. Like he's sort of like he's the party leader of a bunch of magic squads. He does have non-magical means of attacking, and he has magic that would be very good at bypassing Fey defenses. So, like, for example, beyond just fire, Vidana, of course, brought her up again, she can probably damage the Scarecrow a lot. The Stormchild probably could as well, though in a more like a destroying the area around it kind of sense. Trying to think of another one. Oh, his binding pin. He can launch that at the Scarecrow. It's actually made from a Fey sorceress, I believe it was, and that can pin the Scarecrow in place since it's made of metal. Oh yeah, Fey and Dresden Files have a big weakness to iron and steel and other sorts of metals. Like that weakness exists for a Fey of Pact and Pale, but not to the degree where it's like radiation. And that's how bad it is in Dresden Files. Like, if you gave iron and steel to a Fey in Pact or Pale, like, we could hold it and use it for stuff, but they wouldn't. Like, when used against them, it can be dangerous, but not like killing them by touch. But in Dresden Files, like, a big deal is that you could put like a small, tiny screw and throw it at the Fey Queen, and she'd be like, "Oh, what the fuck is that?" Like, you gotta be like, it's said that even leaving like little bits of iron in the Fey court is like tangible to leaving uranium lying around on a public garden. So it's a bad idea. So I don't know if Musser would know to use iron and metals and stuff, because like, you know, that's still standard Fey weakness. But also, I'm not sure if he'd catch on that the Scarecrow's Fey particularly, because it doesn't really operate like Fey per se. This is a tough one. I don't think he'd ever lose against the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow is very weak in the sense that all it has is vine attacks from its own limbs, and is very strong. It can still be damaged by a physical blow, so like, yeah, I think he'd still win. It'd take a lot more issue because he still needs to work around it. I'm trying to think. He'd probably have to use his Abyssal Blade, yeah. I mean, and Abyssal stuff does cut through Fey stuff pretty quickly. Yeah, I think that makes sense, yeah. So how I see him winning, using his binding pin, pinning it in place, allowing probably his Abyssal Sword, Athena, which is his super soldier other, and his boogeyman other to chop it to bits, probably. That's probably going to be the best route for him. Maybe a bit of Dana, too, to weaken and boil it or whatever. Yeah, you know, Dana's just really OP for these kind of fights. Let's see what else. Next book is White Knight. Yes. Yeah, White Knight. It's kind of hard to deal with him because there's a lot of antagonists in this book. Magical returns, doesn't matter. He still loses, even with his extra weapons and stuff. Like, he's really not he's not really not important at all. The big danger is Vito and his ghoul portal that he summons. First off, Vito is also a white core vampire, but he feeds off of despair, and his helps cause, well, despair in people. Like, if he focuses his power on it, if given enough time, he can make you feel fear and depression and etc., etc., etc. Not gonna be an issue with Musser, of course. He has the beads. He has Dana. God, it doesn't even sound like a word anymore. Vidana. Doesn't even sound like a word anymore. But yeah, he has Vidana and the beads and probably a bunch of other protections I'm not even thinking of right now because it's just so many. So that's not an issue. Vito is very athletic. Like, he's described as a vampire ninja, and he has superhuman reaction times and stuff. Like, he's an actual fighter. He might be an issue at first, but like, again, Musser has fought someone who is faster than a car, can leap up buildings and stuff, and he's fought that plus, like, I believe 10 other super soldier dog tags, each shooting guns at him, bombs, explosives, trying to ambush him, and he's fine. Vito would just lose eventually because, like, Rabbit Killer's, like, controlling shadows and devouring him. Stormchild, fucking Musser could just open up his his cigarette lighter and set him on fire. Am I forgetting? No. Oh yeah. So Vito does have the ability to open up a never portal, and I forgot to mention it before, but the never is just basically the spirit world for all intents and purposes. It's just this magical area where Fae and Boogeyman and all of this other stuff exist. And he can open up this portal and lead it to, like, what was it, like, something like nearly 100 ancient ghouls that are amped up with some kind of dark energy. And these ghouls are so strong that you could decapitate them and they'd still be able to, like, grab their heads and slowly reattach it. So that would actually be that'd be a bit of a problem. I think Musser would still win because of that fucking Dana and the fire and stuff. Like, and his Stormchild familiar is able to blow apart streets and stuff. So he'd at least have the Daka advantage of being able to blow stuff up and cause a lot of trouble for the ghouls. He might even be able to kill them because the purifying power of the Dana's positive spirit energy manipulation, that could actually do a lot of damage to the ghouls. I'm not sure, like, because that's really all they do. That's really all we get from this book. It's not a lot. It's not a big. It's not a big issue for Musser. So I'm going to say that is a pretty strong Musser win there. He'll probably defeat the ghouls, defeat Vito, and it would just, and behind the Vito is Cal, and we don't get much from him in there, so he probably isn't. And that's just a repeat of the Deadbeat fight, based on what we know so far. So yeah, I'd say that Musser takes this. Yeah. So excluding Summer Night and Death Mask, I'd say that Musser beats 6 of yeah. Let's see, 6, 8. Yeah, 6 out of 8. That's my sorry. So yeah, that would be my final verdict. Musser wins 6 out of 8 of antagonist fights so far, with 2 draws, 2 very, very questionable draws, and I have time to spare. I guess I don't really know what else to talk about. Like, I guess I could do a hypothetical Harry Dresden versus Musser fight, but I already kind of covered that. Like, Abraham Musser cancels out most of Harry's attacks. Like, Harry can launch fire, then his Stormchild would eat it. Harry can blast wind and kinetic energy, and the Stormchild would eat it. He can try to shoot Musser, and Musser would catch the bullet. I can't even think of... And Harry's trying to do, like, kung fu training, or was it Aikido training? And then grappling stuff, but Musser is literally stronger than him, built like a shit brick house, and can probably, with all of his, like, defenses, and he could probably also pull on Athena's power, or have Athena just beat up Harry for him. He wouldn't dirty his hands. Yeah, Musser's actually pretty, like, we don't talk about it a lot because he's he's more of a general fighter. He tends to have his minions fight for him, but Musser's no slouch when it comes to physical combat. Like, he was squaring up with John Styles, who is a dog tag, and this is, like, Musser didn't even bring his familiars to this fight. He just squared up with John, and the two of them, like, were trading blows and just did not care at all. Like, they walked away from the fight like completely uninterested with each other. It's kind of hard to describe, but John full-on punches Musser in the neck, and Musser's response is just to ignore it. It's just and to stab John in the arm. That's how goated he is in terms of fighting. Oh, and whenever Lucy tries to fight Musser, like with a spear and stuff, and Lucy's been trained by fairies to be like a superhuman martial artist who can fight even when she's unconscious. Like whenever she tries to fight him, he easily disarms her. Like he'll rip her weapon away. I can't even say like how easy it is because it just happens in the sentence. Or Lucy goes to fight him, and like in a swift move, Musser disarms her. It's pretty crazy how much stronger he is than Lucy, and how much easier it was for him to handle John just one-on-one. And he does end up defeating John too. Like, that's pretty crazy. But so Harry Dresden's kind of out. You know what would be funny is doing a Reed Musser versus Harry Dresden. That'd be interesting. I think they're about the same level. Harry Dresden has more damage output, but Reed's got some bags of tricks in him. And his own familiars that are pretty good at this stuff too. Reed Musser is Abraham Musser's son, his second-born son. Oh, another comment. Harry Dresden versus Vitrio? Oh. I'd have to do not so much research. I feel like Vitrio would win at some points, but it really depends on when, like, which Harry and which trio, like, at what time period. But that'd be so much research. Oh my god. It took me forever to do John Styles research. And he was just one character. The trio are not only just the main protagonist, but they have so many tricks. It's insane. That's not even counting, like, do I include them being able to summon other magical creatures? But you know, that's down the road. We'll do that later. I guess we can just do it just chatting now then. I feel bad for it. People coming in and be like, oh, this was a short video. Well, it's like, I'm just covering it. But we can do just chatting right now. I hope everyone's doing okay. I know it's been rough for me with this cuff. It's been a very disappointing week. But other than that, I hope everyone's doing all right. The next podcast episode, I'm imagining... I'm torn between doing a... something involving the Space Marines or Halo Spartans. But I'm trying to figure out if I should, like, so... I'm jumping all over the place because I'm just spitballing right now. So, I'm thinking maybe... Sorry, that's my alarm. I still got a few minutes left, but I'm just going to start... I'll start spitballing with you guys. So, I'm thinking maybe... next one will be Master Chief versus Defiant from Worm and Ward. That might be the next one I do. But I also kind of want to do a Space Marine one. But I'm trying to think of a good opponent. I know Chevalier's often done, but I'm not sure if he's going to be the right one for that. You know? I'm trying to think of... I want to do one with Meridian, too. I could do a Harry Dresden versus Murden one. Sorry, I said Meridian, but it's Murden. That could be fun. But who would be a good one for Space Marine? Because, okay, if I did Master Chief versus Defiant, I don't want to do another Defiant one back-to-back. So Space Marine one, maybe I'll do a Space Marine versus a Tecton from Chicago Wards, or the Chicago Wards in general. That'd be pretty funny. That'd be pretty good, actually. Now that I think about it, I pretty much have all their research done. That'd be pretty cool, actually. I'm coming to like it. Oh, comment. wait to see where Seek goes. There's probably something there. You know what, Ed? I was thinking the same thing. For those who don't know, Seek is Wild Bow's most recent web serial. It's a sort of an anthology series following three protagonists from in a sci-fi setting set 3 eras apart. So the first era takes place in the past. I say past, but it's like they're all in the sci-fi future. We don't even have a solid date for it, I think. They're just 3 different eras of a sci-fi future. One's like the first one is takes place like in a cyberpunk sort of universe. Time period. The second one takes place way down the line, and it's more like a Star Trek-esque setup. And the third one is way down, way after all that. And it's more like what's a good example of it? Apocalypse sort of setup. But yeah, I don't know. Tentatively, I have Master Chief versus Defiant. And maybe... You know what? Maybe instead of Space Marines, I'll do the entities in Warhammer 40k as a what if. That'd be kind of fun. That's always been talked about a lot. Yeah, I think, broken record here. Master Chief versus Defiant. Oh, there's a good one someone suggested to me about Vista versus Masaka from Tuaru no Mujutsu, or what is it? Tuaru Railgun? Whatever. It's from the Railgun series. I cannot pronounce that to save my life. That would be a fun one. Like, I'll just get some Vista representation out there. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll do Master Chief. Yeah, tentative plans. Master Chief versus Defiant. Entities in Warhammer 40k. Vista versus Masaka. Is it Masaki? Masaka. Alright. Well, I think my time is about done. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this episode of Who Would Win 4.5. This has been Rid Tom, Victoria Dallon's #1 fan, signing off. Goodbye.